Members of Congress and senior Pentagon officials say the Trump regime appears to be shifting blame away from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and onto a Navy admiral for a controversial second strike that reportedly targeted survivors on a suspected drug-smuggling vessel. As criticism grows, Hegseth has repeatedly argued that he stands firmly behind US commanders, insisting they exercised sound judgment during the September 2nd operation, attacks which the international community now brand as extrajudicial killings.
It was an attack. It wasn't one strike, two strikes, three strikes. Somebody asked me a question about the second strike. I didn't know about the second strike. I didn't know anything about people. I wasn't involved in it. I knew they took out a boat. But I would say this. They had a strike. I hear the gentleman that was in charge of that is extraordinary. He's an extraordinary person. I'll let Pete speak about him. But Pete was satisfied. Pete didn't know about second attack having to do with two people. And I guess Pete would have to speak to it. I can say this. I want those boats taken out. And if we have to, we'll attack on land also, just like we attack on sea.
Hegseth had pointed specifically to Admiral Frank M. Bradley, asserting that Bradley, not he, authorized the follow-on attack on the damaged boat. The White House has echoed this version of events, prompting unease among lawmakers from both parties, who fear Bradley is being used as a fall guy for an order that may have violated US and international law. Hegseth did provide some additional details in an embarrassing cabinet meeting today regarding the controversial decision to execute this second strike on an alleged drug trafficking boat off the coast of Venezuela. Hegseth described his personal involvement in the events, clarifying that while he did witness the start of the action, he was not present when the critical restrike decision was made. He stated that he watched that first strike, but ultimately did not stick around for the hour or 2 hours afterward, as he had to move on to his next meeting. Hegseth explains that he only learned of the follow-up decision a couple of hours later, asserting that the commander had the complete authority to make that call.
I watched that first strike live. As you can imagine, at the Department of War, we got a lot of things to do. So I didn't stick around for the hour and 2 hours, whatever, where all the sensitive site exploitation digitally occurs. So I moved on to my next meeting. A couple of hours later, I learned that that commander had made which he had the complete authority to do. And by the way, Admiral Bradley made the correct decision to ultimately sink the boat and eliminate the threat. He sunk the boat, and eliminated the threat.
The Defense Secretary then proceeded to offer a strong defense of Admiral Bradley's action, explaining that the Admiral sunk the boat and eliminated the threat. However, Hegseth's retelling today appears to conflict with the version of events he gave to Fox News just a day after the second strike. As previously reported, on September 3rd, Hegseth suggested he watched the entire operation in real time, saying in an interview, "I can tell you that was definitely not artificial intelligence. I watched it live." During the weird cabinet meeting, Donald Trump also addressed the narcotics crackdown, defending the regime's aggressive policy. He stated that any country manufacturing and selling drugs to the US is subject to attack, indicating that such strikes would not be limited to Venezuela. Furthermore, Trump announced a significant escalation, declaring that the regime is going to start doing those strikes on land as well, after primarily containing the crackdown to sea operations. He claimed that the land is much easier, and that the government knows the drug routes, everything about the smugglers, and where the bad ones live. Trump concluded by promising, "So when we start that, we're going to drive those numbers down so low." Trump failed to mention that he has officially pardoned the former Honduran president, who US officials said was at the center of one of the largest and most violent drug trafficking conspiracies in the world. Juan Orlando Hernandez, who served 2 terms as the leader of the Central American nation, had been sentenced to 45 years for conspiring to import cocaine to the United States. On Monday, White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt publicly identified Bradley as the officer who directed the engagement, while portraying Hegseth as removed from the immediate decision-making. She emphasized that Bradley acted within established authorities after receiving Hegseth's broader approval to conduct kinetic operations. Her remarks appeared to sidestep a Washington Post report claiming that Hegseth personally issued a verbal instruction to eliminate everyone remaining on the vessel. The distancing effort intensified after Donald Trump told reporters on Sunday that he wouldn't have wanted a second strike, and said Hegseth assured him he did not tell forces to kill the 2 surviving men. Trump added that he trusted Hegseth's account, but lawmakers have taken notice of the regime's shifting explanations. Democratic Senator Chris Murphy charged that Hegseth was effectively sacrificing Admiral Bradley to protect himself, warning that such behavior erodes confidence throughout the chain of command. Other Democrats pointed to the Washington Post's reporting and suggested that, if accurate, the strike could constitute a war crime. Several Republicans, while less outspoken, also acknowledged that the legal issues surrounding the attack need to be scrutinized. A classified opinion from the Justice Department's Office of Legal Counsel attempts to justify the operation by framing the mission as an attack on drug trafficking infrastructure, specifically cocaine, rather than on individuals. According to that document, anyone killed in the process would be considered either enemy personnel or unintended collateral damage. That rationale diverges from Trump's public statements describing the operations as a direct effort to address overdose deaths in the United States. Bradley is expected to brief lawmakers this Thursday in a closed session. Congressional interest has intensified amid reports that Hegseth told forces in early September to strike the vessel and kill everybody, as the Post alleges. Both the House and Senate Armed Services Committees have launched investigations into a series of recent U.S. military actions against alleged drug smuggling boats in the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific. Hegseth, responding again on Friday via X, accused the press of spreading fabricated stories meant to undermine U.S. service members. He insisted that American operations in the region comply with both domestic and international law, and that every step has been vetted by military and civilian attorneys. His comments did little to quell criticism from Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer, who labeled him a national embarrassment and demanded that he releases video of the strike and testify under oath. Republican Senator Roger Wicker, who chairs the Senate Armed Services Committee, promised a thorough, methodical investigation. He cautioned that the allegations involve serious charges and that his panel intends to establish the factual record. The September 2nd attack was one of many carried out as part of a broad U.S. military build-up in waters near Venezuela ordered by Trump. The campaign, which includes deployment of the Navy's largest aircraft carrier to the region, has resulted in more than 80 deaths. The underlying strategy and its potential connection to U.S. policy towards Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro have become additional points of debate among lawmakers. Inside the Pentagon, Hegseth's first year as secretary has been marked by turmoil. He's rebranded himself the War Secretary, faced accusations of sharing classified information about operations in Yemen through the encrypted messaging platform Signal, and overseen a series of internal disputes that led to the firing of multiple senior aides. A former Pentagon spokesperson, previously a Trump loyalist, described the department earlier this year as being in a state of total chaos and urged the president to consider replacing Hegseth. Despite the controversies, Trump has consistently defended his appointee, saying this week that Hegseth is doing a great job. Meanwhile, Admiral Bradley has continued rising within the military hierarchy. 1 month after the disputed strike, he was promoted from head of Joint Special Operations Command to Commander of U.S. Special Operations Command. As congressional committees prepare for classified briefings and additional hearings, lawmakers from both parties stress that they do not yet know whether the Post's reporting is accurate. Still, they agree that allegations of a deliberate strike on survivors raise profound legal and ethical questions that must be answered. I'm Anthony Davis. You can find me on the 5 Minute News YouTube channel and podcast, on Wednesdays co-hosting Uncovered, and on Sunday on The Weekend Show with Midas Touch.